So, welcome everybody to the podcast with Jennifer March. I am super excited to have you join me today. It's great to see you.
Hi, Barbara.
Hello, Jen. And
So
first
happy
of
to
all,
see you.
I'm happy to see you. Thank you for coming on, making time. I know you're busy, and I know you, but the audience doesn't know you. So, I would like to start by reading a little bit of your bio, and then you can add, and then we're going to just jump in. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So Jen was born in Berkeley, California, and raised in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. She graduated with a Bachelor's of Arts in Spanish from Westminster, which included a semester abroad at the University of Seville. Hope I said that right.
Sevilla.
Seville. She served as an assistant teacher for Westminster and the Department of Modern Languages. She's also an alumni of the Leadership Pittsburgh class of 39, one of a kind. She began her career in the profit sector in Washington, D.C. Upon graduating from Westminster in New Wilmington, she discovered quickly that the nonprofit sector is where she is happiest, devoting time and effort. In the latter part of Jennifer's career in Pittsburgh, she's been serving in various leadership roles in the nonprofit world, especially in healthcare. After a successful 7-year tenure as the executive director of Family House, Jennifer took on her current role as the executive director and CEO of the Shadyside Hospital Foundation. And I could go on and on and on, but I'm going to stop there. You have won many awards and accolades, and you're very well known in the nonprofit world in Pittsburgh and actually beyond. So thank you for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
So I think today is going to be a little bit of a different interview. We're going to probably talk a little bit about the nonprofit world, but we're also going to talk about your own, personal journey, because this podcast is really about inspiring people to look at difficult times in their lives and how we can overcome it, what we do. So I invite you to share tips and like real moments. And it's not even all about having to be on the other end, because sometimes, we're not at the end, we're in the beginning,
Right.
and we don't know. So with that, I invite you just to share, maybe something that was really, really super challenging for you that you think might be of value to the listeners.
Thank you, Barbara. I will accept the invitation to share, and I will start with this. I'm sure that your listeners are a lot of leaders or up and coming leaders, and we think and talk a lot about what it takes to embrace the role of a leader. And the story I'm going to share really does interweave leadership into our own personal experience. In July of 2020, I was serving as the executive director of Family House, a nonprofit that, as you know so well, Barbara, serves patients, hospital patients, and families who have to travel to Pittsburgh to receive medical care. I was a normal day at work and had a dentist appointment. And so I went to the dentist, and when I sat in the dentist chair, something crazy happened. The dental assistant was just doing what she does, and fireworks went off behind my eyeballs.
Wow.
In my brain. And I was trying not to panic and freak out, but I knew something bad was happening. And I said to my hygienist, I said, Dina, I don't want to frighten people. I'm stroking out. Wow. Because the sensation of the fireworks continued inside my head and traveled down my body. And I could think of nothing else other than this must be what a stroke is like.
Right.
So fortunately, my dentist is located within a hospital. Somebody hit the emergency button, and before I knew it, I was thrown onto a gurney and sent back to get a CT scan. Fast forward just a day, mind you, this was the height of COVID, so nobody could be with me from my family, not my husband, nobody.
Wow.
And I was informed the next day that there was a mass on my brain. I was not having a stroke. I was having seizures.
My God.
So this was July 1st, 2020. On July 10th of 2020, I had a 9-hour open cranial awake brain surgery to remove the tumor. And 4 days after that, I was given the very daunting diagnosis, the news that my tumor was, in fact, a grade 4 glioblastoma. My surgery was very successful. And I knew back to the seizures when I was being wheeled from the dentist chair into the CT scan. I said to this thing in my head, which was still a mystery to me, whatever purpose you had to serve is over. Goodbye. From the moment that happened, I really did become the leader of my own body. I took charge. I took control of it inside my mind. And I talked to God and all of my angels and said, nope, nothing's taking me out. I have 2 kids. I have a life to lead. And so back to my diagnosis, I went through chemo, radiation, the whole kit and caboodle. My surgeon, amazing. He said to us, my husband and me, after my surgery, that we're not going to pay attention to survival rates. They don't. And what I like to say to people, because once you, and so many of you out there have had an experience aligned with this, whether it's with a loved one or with yourself, suddenly you're a member of a club you never wanted to join.
Yeah.
But now it's been 4.5 years, and the survival rate for a glioblastoma is 12 to 15 months. So people get sent my way quite frequently who have received a diagnosis like this. And what I'd like to share with people is, number one, take charge. This is your body. You have a right to own it. Find your inspiration. What is it that is going to propel you into looking forward to the future? What I did was quite immediately, even before my diagnosis, I created in my mind a visual inspiration board. And I say visual, Barbara, because I am not a scrapbooker. I have no craft skills. I couldn't even color inside the lines when I was a kid. So I created a visual inspiration board in my mind and said, okay, this is July 2020. In July of 2021, I will be on my kayak in Maine, in my happy place with my kids and my mom, doing what I love to do most with the people I love most.
Wow.
And you know what? I did it. I was there.
Wow.
And all my loved ones were worried about me. And I said, stop it. I'm doing this. And I did it. And I've done it every summer since. So find what I like to say to people, take charge. Know that survival rates don't know you. They didn't know me, certainly. And know that your body was created to heal, whether you believe in God, the universe, the source. We were created by something greater than us. And our bodies know just what to do when there's a challenge. Yes, we are all born with cancer cells in our bodies. Doesn't mean we're all going to end up with cancer. We're also equipped with cells to fight them. So hand over permission to your body to do what it's been created to do and let it heal. Focus inward and hand over permission with trust and gratitude, and know that you've got this. That's how I handled it, and here to tell the story.
I mean, I heard the story, and the first time I was like, and every time I hear the story, it's just so remarkable. And I want to just highlight a few things that and maybe we can go back there a little bit. because
Sure.
you seem to be doing it so intuitively. So, one of the things that you didn't say, but you kind of said it, is like, my body made this thing, so my body can unmake it. I
Yes.
maybe unconsciously produced this tumor for
Hmm.
whatever reason. And so then I can say, okay, thank you. I got it. I got the lesson, whatever. And now I'm done with it. And now you can undo it or whatever. Right. And so
Yes.
then
Yes.
we have that ability, even though it's like we're not consciously talking to ourselves and say, hey, go breathe or go do those things. But that you took this opportunity and became more conscious and started to direct yourself in a more conscious way.
Absolutely.
Now,
People often ask me, how did this change you?
yeah.
And, it didn't really change me. In fact, I'm delighted to report that I'm exactly the same person I was all along. But what it did do was reinforce the spirituality that already lived within me since I was a very, very little girl.
Mm,
And what it did do was really push me to sit with that more intentionally. And what I mean by that is twice a day, first thing in the morning, and the last thing I do is I do meditate. I do take, whether it's a minute or a half an hour, usually on my screened-in porch, which is surrounded by trees and birds, not so much right now with the snow and the freezing cold. But I sit and I breathe deeply and I find the light and I give gratitude and trust in that the next day will be pure joy and perfect health and wellness like today was. So I really like what you said, Barbara, about my body. My body created this and it can undo it. I love that. And I absolutely agree with that. I did along with the chemo, the radiation, and listening to my clinicians, I also did some healing work with a healing guide. And he refers to this type of healing as quantum healing. It is
wow.
it is meditative. It is going deep within your body through your mind and going to a cellular level to encourage to look for areas that may be darker, that need healing, that need elements to promote healing. And it was a brilliant experience. The first session I had with Rob, that's his name, he was introduced by one of my closest friends who grew up with him in Aspen. And
Wow.
our first session was over the phone, and it was about a 2.5 hour long session. That night, my husband and I went to dinner with some friends, and a girlfriend, we're very close, and she looked at me and she went like this, called me over to her and said, "What's going on with you?" And I said, "Why?" She goes, "You are radiating."
Wow.
And I had been very gray and colorless given the treatments.
Of
She
course.
said, "You're radiating. What's going on with you?" And I said, "Well, I had this healing session today and I feel amazing." And it really reinforced, I'm going to get through this,
Yeah.
not just survive it,
No, you're going to thrive.
thrive. That's right.
Thrive.
And
Yeah.
ironically, we all love those full circle moments.
Yeah, we do.
And here I sit at UPMC Shadyside Hospital where I work.
Yeah, right.
This is where I had my brain surgery 4.5 years ago and where I received my radiation. So it's just, and now as part of my job, I get to go visit with patients who are experiencing a daunting diagnosis, and I get to share my story and to encourage their own healing, because so much of our healing is up to us. We have the power.
What do we tell people that just gave up and I live in Israel, so Even though
Yes.
I would say this is a country where a lot of people are like, rah, 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 let's do it, and we can, and we're like, invincible. But underneath that, underneath that sort of inauthentic sort of way of being, sometimes, I see a lot of people are just giving up, or even myself, I have moments where I just like, oh, I just can't, I just can't get out of bed. The other day, the sirens were going on, and I'm like, I'm not gonna. And I thought it was like, I thought we have a peace agreement, ceasefire.
Yes.
It's like, what's
Right.
going on? And I just like, I'm not getting up. So
Mm.
what do we tell ourselves or the people that when we just can't, or just
I have
can't?
I have a couple of thoughts.
Good.
Number one, when I was 7 years old,
Mm,
my mother was tucking me into bed and saying goodnight.
mm,
And I told her I had a question for her. And I
okay.
remember this moment like it was yesterday. And I asked her, what is the point in all of this? What is the point in day after day getting up, going to school, you and dad are going to work? It seems very routine. What is the ultimate purpose in all of this? And she has said to this day, I've never known a 7-year-old to be so philosophical. And finally, her answer to me was to make this world a better place. And
Wow.
it, mhm. And
Wow.
I slept soundly, and I never asked the question of myself or to anybody else after that.
That made sense to you.
It did.
Yeah, and your life is a testimony of that. You do make the world a better place.
Thank you, Barbara. And I watched my mother make the world a better place through her work.
No,
So,
that's true. That's
and
profound.
ultimately we were brought here for a reason.
Yes, we were.
And that's, when we have those moments of, ugh, we have to, reach down sometimes very deeply and remind ourselves of that. It may not be obvious what that purpose was, but if it's to make the world a better place, whatever that means, we have to go with it.
Yeah. And sometimes that means let go of your low self-esteem, thinking that you're not worthy of anything.
That's right.
Because that is, of course, something that comes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a person that doesn't have low self-esteem at some point.
Of course.
So, okay, that means I have to sacrifice that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I don't know what I'm doing. Because ultimately, if I'm here to make the world a better place, that would be in the way. When you say?
And sometimes that can feel daunting.
Yeah.
And sometimes all you have to do to make the world a better place is smile at a stranger
Yeah.
and watch their face light up. One smile begets another smile, and next thing you know, you're putting something beautiful out there into the universe.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. It can be very simple. So you said that your mom really inspired you.
Mm-hmm.
What else, or who else inspires you?
Oh, my children. They have had their own challenges. My son has had some health challenges that he's overcome. He was diagnosed at age 5 and again at age 8 with leg purpose disease, which is a disease that affects the femoral ball of the hips. And we were fortunate enough to be in Pittsburgh, where the world's leading expert in leg purpose disease, which most people have never heard of, is
Right.
Located here at UPMC Children's Hospital.
Wow.
And he said 20 years ago, I would have cut him and done this barbaric surgery, which many children are still going through.
Oh my God.
But he said, the doctor said, we're just going to watch and see and monitor. And as I was packing up my things, getting ready to leave, he said, no running or jumping for 12 to 14 months. I threw my bag back down and I said, he's a 5-year-old boy. He doesn't even know how to walk. All he does is run and jump and hop. Anyway, he got through that and then was diagnosed on the other side when he was 8.
Wow.
And then he went on to become a superstar lacrosse player. He's an athlete and
Wow.
essentially pain-free. When he does have pain from time to time, he knows what to do about it.
Okay.
So I've seen that. He's really inspired me, and my daughter has inspired me. She is the younger of the two. I have 2 children. My son is 22, my daughter is 20. And she was sort of strapped with the label of being the strong kid between the two of them.
Okay.
And when her mother was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, when she was 16 years old, she wrote her college essay and had me read it. Oh, man. That inspired me. And I've watched her become a leader. She is a vice president of her sorority. She ran the big fundraiser for Indiana University Bloomington. And I did have to laugh, though.
Like the other women in the family.
Yeah, but I did have to laugh, Barbara. You'll love this. She said to her father, she's looking for an internship next summer. She's in the Kelley School of Business at IU Bloomington.
Okay.
And she's looking for an internship next summer. She said to her dad, no offense to Mom, I don't want to do nonprofit, because once you're in nonprofit, it's impossible to get out of it. I've been doing nonprofit work for 30 plus years. She's not wrong, but I love it.
No, she's right. It's,
She's right.
The other way, it's okay the other way around,
Yeah.
For to go from nonprofit into the corporate, I mean, unless you doing a foundation or something like that.
That's right. But whoever gets her will be fortunate to have her in the corporate world.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful that they inspired you, and they continue to inspire you.
Yes.
You're lucky to have that. And maybe, you're watching your son was sort of like, oh my God, he can do it, I can do it.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Got through that. I
want to shift a little bit and talk a little bit about, I mean, a lot of what I do, and you shared about the treatments that you had, and, that they go deep on a cellular level. And, in so many ways, I think neuroscience is catching up to us.
Yes.
And explaining the things that we couldn't explain, like, we know, we look at the pineal gland and the third eye, and, like all of a sudden, those two worlds are like coming closer. And one of the things I think we still don't pay enough attention to is our emotions, and how we can use our emotions to move ourselves forward. And on the other hand, of course, how the emotions, sometimes smack us in the face, and we're like, oh my God, I can't do it. They trigger us. So all to say, a long lead into, how do you deal with your emotions? How do they support you? What can you share with our audience?
If a negative or dark thought creeps into my head, I have this, it's very simple. I just go within myself, and I visualize myself holding that thought in my hands and saying to it, you are not mine. You don't belong to me. Okay. And I send it off into the ocean or into the air, but it's not mine. I don't hold on to it, and I give it away, usually into the ocean.
And does it go?
It goes, and then I replace it with something light. It doesn't even have to be a thought, just a visual of light. I replace it.
So it could be a picture, it could be a color, it could be a
color. It could be when I close my eyes and I sort of see a beam. It could be that.
Okay. And let's say, do you sometimes have the same thought like coming back, or is it like the persistent thoughts?
I used to. I used
Okay.
to have fearful thoughts, and this goes long before this
That,
health
okay.
issue or this
Right.
health situation. I
Right.
used to have repetitive fearful thoughts, and that's because I became a mother.
Ah, okay.
And the greater the love, the greater the risk, you know?
Mm, the
And so
loss.
I would have fearful thoughts about something happening to my kids.
Yeah.
Um, I read this wonderful book. I actually got it on Audible as well. And it's called The Worry Trick. The
The
Worry
worry,
Trick.
the worry trick.
The Worry Trick. And
Okay.
it's a great book. It's very practical. The first thing the author says is, okay, well, when I'm saying what if, I'm actually saying, let's pretend. Let's pretend that such and such is going to happen to my child, because that's what you're doing when you say what if. You're pretending, you're playing pretend.
That's totally right.
Yeah. And so I don't have repetitive thoughts anymore. I didn't even have repetitive thoughts about I'm going to die, about my demise from brain cancer. I didn't. Other people in my life may have, and might have had a hard time believing me when I said, I'm not going anywhere. I knew
Mhm.
it, but I know that there are people close to me, my husband, my children, my parents, worried. So they may have had repetitive thoughts, and it's understandable. I ordered everybody, do not Google, no Googling.
No, no, that's good. I always tell people don't Google because Google's going to give you the whatever, all the things
Yeah,
that you don't want to hear.
that's
And
right.
it's very smart that you said, uh, how did you say it? Survival, numbers don't,
They
they don't
don't know
mean
you. Survival rates don't know you.
you, and they don't, they don't know you, and they don't know you. And um, one of the things that's important is to re-educate people.
Yes.
And I think the ones that are close to you, it's like it's okay. It's natural that you have fear. Of course, you don't want to, you don't want anything to happen to me, and I need you to work with yourself, and so that you can vibrate on a different frequency. Get
Hmm.
yourself
Yeah.
on a different train.
Yes. And I'm delighted that my husband and my children and my mother, my parents and my siblings, they've all come around. My sister is very intuitive. She got it right from the get-go. But everybody has come around. And in fact, my mother injured herself a year ago. She it's pretty gruesome. She caught her fingers in a garage door as it was closing.
Oh, oh
Yeah, I'm
God.
sorry. I'm sorry. I don't want to gross
Okay.
people out. And she was, of course, taken immediately by ambulance to the hospital. And the nurse in the ED sewed on what she could. And
Oh my God.
the doctor who saw my mother said, we're going to have to amputate one of your fingers. And I said to her, Mom, no, you have miraculously, she had sensory, she had feeling in those two fingers that were impacted. I said,
Really?
if you have feeling, you have nerves that are intact, no one's amputating. You're not losing a finger over this. And then she said, will you do some healing work on me? And I said, I already am. So I took the technique that I had learned, that I had done with Rob through myself from a distance. I don't live near my mother. And about 4 months later, when she went in for a checkup, the PA saw her first and looked at her hands and shrieked with joy, went into the hallway, called everybody in, including that ER nurse who sewed up my mother's hands.
Mm,
And
mm,
that nurse burst into tears and
mm.
said, I didn't think I could save it. I didn't think how is this possible? I mean, my mother is back to getting manicures. Also, by the way, she
Wow.
was 87 years old when this happened. She's
That's
now
amazing.
88 years old, getting her manicures, using her hands.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that we know it works. And for those people that are out there listening to this and saying that's nuts, sometimes it doesn't really matter
Right.
for you to believe in it or not believe in it. Just go with it, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's like jump in the river and the current will take you. It's like let's just see what happens.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Do something
And I'm
else.
so I'm so thrilled because I work now, I work here at UPMC Shadyside, and as the foundation, our mission is to support through grants efforts of the hospital to improve patient outcomes, improve the employee experience. And one of the things that we that we grant is the Center for Integrative Medicine.
Yeah, good.
You're familiar. And the Center for
Yeah,
Integrative Medicine is really the bedrock of their mission is to support healing through complementary treatment and
right.
like meditative healing, Reiki. So there are efforts, to your earlier point, saying there's more evidence that this type of thought and healing is being embraced in the clinical setting. There's a doctor, an oncologist at UPMC Hillman, who she and I had a conversation last week to talk about this sort of thing. And so it is her mission. She is driven to support cancer patients, providing them with information about complementary healing, sort of exactly what we're talking about. Also, I spoke with the chief of surgery for another health system. He happens to be a close friend of ours. And I saw him probably a month and a half after my surgery. And he said, "Why are you doing so well? What's going on?" He said, "Tell me everything. I want to know your treatment. I want to know everything. And I want to know why you're doing so well." I said, "Knock." His name is Knock. I said, "You're going to think this is woo woo and out there, but I'm doing meditative healing, quantum healing on the cellular level." And he said, "That is not woo woo. I know that's real stuff." And
Yep.
I'm so glad to hear it. So here's a guy that was trained science, and he's the lead surgeon for a major medical system, and he gets it.
That's fantastic. That's so wonderful to hear that more and more people are getting it. And I
Yes.
love that like I said a little bit ago, that intersection is getting closer and closer and closer. And, hopefully there won't be the divide of,
Right.
you have to do it like this way. And, and you and I mean, you know what I do. So it's like the deeper I can go with my coaching and working on the cellular level memory and reprogramming beliefs and,
Yeah.
the easier it is for people to change, the more we can let go of the stuff that doesn't work.
We're never too old to
Never,
evolve and change and grow.
never.
Never. I mean, I honestly, this experience felt like a rebirth for me. I remember the awake part of my surgery. And it
Wow.
felt that part of it. I remember what I was saying to the surgeon, what I was saying to
Wow.
the nurse. And
Wow.
yeah, they were trying to get me to go back to sleep. I was like a horse. I wouldn't go down. But honestly, it
Oh my
felt,
God.
it was magical. And I know that sounds a little
No,
wild
no.
to people, but it really felt like a rebirth.
No, you were probably on a different level. It's
Yeah,
like you
for
have,
sure.
you were reaching in these other dimensions. And so, and
Yes.
some part of you were, you were closer to, whatever, the
Oh,
upper
yeah.
level. So, and then you see different and you perceive things differently, and it's like different parts of your brain, like
Mhm.
being accessed. So, and that's amazing because in and of itself, I think most of us, we don't have those experiences, and if we do, we're not aware of them. And oh gosh, if we could only have more of those experiences, then we probably would. There would be a lot of less other things that we wouldn't do. I
Right.
was having a
Yeah.
conversation with my brother yesterday about family matter, and I said to him, the war has really changed me, and fairness. I just don't really. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if this one gets more and this one gets less, and how it all plays out. We just need to find a solution so everybody can go right. And so we can move on, and we can be happy together, and we can let go of the things that don't work.
That's right.
Before we close, is there a quote that you want to share, or is there any sort of additional tips?
If I may share, there was a book that was really, I think this book should be required reading of all Americans because of the diet that is pushed on us and the diet that most of us can afford, which can lead to disease. A friend of mine whose husband was 20 months ahead of me with a glioblastoma diagnosis, she gave me a lot of support, one of which was this book.
Okay, please.
The title is Anti-Cancer, A New Way of Life. The author's name is David, it's a hyphenated last name.
Okay.
Sturven Schreiber.
Okay, we'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, great. So this book, I carried it around with me. It really, I read it. I'm not a voracious reader, wish I were.
Okay.
I read this book cover to cover. It's next to my bed. It really became my way of life. And his ultimate point in the book is, and he proves it through scientific evidence, he himself was diagnosed with glioblastoma.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And
wow.
This was back in maybe the 70s when treatments were not what they are today. And he survived 25 years with it. And not just survived, thrived. He was a practicing physician. Guess where? And I didn't know this until I got here. He was practicing here at UPMC Shadyside. He's one of the founders of the Center for Integrative Medicine, which we talked about a moment ago.
That's amazing.
And what he says is what I had said earlier about we are all born with cancer cells doesn't mean we're going to end up with cancer. We're equipped to prevent it, fight it. And he talks about there are essentially 3 ways for us to avoid or reject or reverse disease: diet, moderate exercise. We don't have to become triathletes, and stress reduction through meditation, and that can be through exercise. He talks about inflammation being the root of all disease.
Right.
So if we can restrict inflammatory food and in our diet and exercise and reduce stress, then that will reduce inflammation in our bodies. Because with glioblastoma, the job of a glioblastoma tumor is to come back.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so that's why the survival rates are what they are. It's programmed to do that. And the way it does that is it finds inflammation, because inflammation is tumor food.
Yeah, right.
So if we can prevent that, if we can not feed that tumor, it won't come back. So, and inflammation is the root of, endocrine disease, right. Not just cancer, not just glioblastoma, but it's a great book. It's very easy to read. It's very practical. I love food. I haven't eaten white flour in years just because I don't like it. So enriched white flour and sugar are really the 2 things that we have to restrict. Also processed meats, processed deli meats, that sort of thing. So the biggest change for me was to get sugar out of my diet, because I made up for being super healthy with sugar and chocolate.
Oh.
So I get my sugar fix through dark chocolate with hazelnuts.
Okay.
And red wine. Pinot Noir is anti-inflammatory. That's the great.
Oh, let's drink Pinot Noir, everybody.
Yes.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I'll leave you with that, but happy to talk more anytime.
Well, we're going to have information on how to get in touch with you, and hopefully, there's people that will reach out and you can inspire them.
Be my honor.
It's amazing. And I want to thank you for coming. And I'm so happy we met. It's now a little bit. I actually think that we met years and years and years ago. We just didn't know it.
It sure felt like it the first time I laid eyes on you, didn't it?
When I was in the nonprofit world, and you were already way into the nonprofit world. So but thank you for.
Thank you, Barbara. I love you.
I love you too. And
best to everybody out there.
Thanks. Same to you. And take care.
Okay.
Hi, and here are the takeaways from my interview with Jennifer March. Number 1, take charge of your health and healing. It's crucial to become the leader of your own body and mind when facing health challenges. Don't just passively accept diagnoses or statistics. Number 2, visualize and set inspiring goals. Create a mental inspiration board with positive future goals to motivate yourself through difficult times. Number 3, practice releasing negative thoughts. When dark or fearful thoughts arise, visualize holding them and intentionally letting them go, replacing them with light or positivity. Number 4, explore complementary healing methods. Consider integrative approaches like meditation, visualization, and quantum healing alongside traditional medical treatments. These can support overall wellness and recovery. Number 5, focus on anti-inflammatory lifestyle choices. Reduce inflammation through diet, limiting sugar, processed foods, moderate exercise, and stress reduction techniques like meditation. This can help prevent and fight various diseases. That's it for this time. If you're curious about neuroemotional coaching, please book a session. You deserve it. Take care. All right, action takers, as we wrap up today's episode, I want you to know that I believe in you. Each of you has the power to create positive change in your life, no matter where you're starting from. Remember, it's okay to take small steps. Every bit of progress counts. And the sooner you can take action, the better, because your saboteur loves to create doubt and confusion. If you enjoyed what you heard today, you know what I'll ask of you. Like, subscribe, leave Apple and Spotify ratings and reviews, tell a friend, and generally do all the things you would do to support a podcast you love. Your support helps this message reach more people who might need to hear it, especially right now. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode to support you on your journey. Until then, this is Dr. Barbara reminding you that you're worthy of an extraordinary life. Be kind to yourself as you work towards your goals, and remember, I am rooting for you every step of the way.